All right, parents, so we set up the scenario of who stole my cupcakes. We have a note that we're going to start to look into, but we need to actually teach them some science behind how this stuff is going to work. So today, we're going to start looking at ink, and we're going to look at how ink spreads through water. So the experiment's actually very simple. You will need some M&Ms or Skittles. We used to use M&Ms, but I think I think peanut M&Ms and regular M&Ms are made in the same factory, and I know peanuts isn't always a way to go. Skittles work just as well. So anywhere you see the word M&M in any of the documents, you can substitute Skittles in for the same thing. Essentially, the experiment is this. You take a paper plate, you put a tiny bit of water so that it covers the thing, and then you put an M&M in it, or a Skittle. And then they're going to see that the ink is actually, or the dye from the Skittle or the M&M is actually going to spread out in the water. So the question for today's experiment is, do different dyes spread out the same amount? Or the same speed? Do they go just as fast? And spoiler alert, they don't. Different dyes actually spread out differently because they're different size molecules. But in order to figure this out, in order for students to actually figure this out, they need to take very close data. They need to really understand how to take data, how to set up an experiment to do this. So one of the things that we talk about is being sure that they only change one variable at a time. Meaning if you have 2 or 3 plates that you want to do at the same time, you want to drop the M&Ms in them, you need to be sure that the water level's roughly the same. Technically, I don't think the water level makes that much difference, but it needs to be somewhat the same. If you want to have them measure it out with a measuring cup, you can do that. The M&M needs to be placed right in the center, and then they need to wait the same amount of time for each of them before they measure. Another place where students often kind of mess this up is how they measure. Do they want to measure from the center of the M&M out of where it's spread, or do they want to go across? And if they go across, if it doesn't go perfectly circular, are they going to go across the long way, the short way? It doesn't really matter what they do as long as they do it the same way on every M&M that they drop. So we have to be sure that they're taking good data. If they bump the table or they bump their plate, it's going to create waves, and that's going to screw up their experiment. So be sure they're not using experiments or data for that. So first off, we also need to know that even if you drop 3 different red M&Ms, they might not exactly spread out the same amount. So this idea of doing extra trials and taking an average to say, okay, red kind of does this, green kind of does this. If they were in class with us, everybody would do an M&M. We'd have 30 different trials with 5 different types of M&Ms. So we would have 6 different trials, or even if we have half the class, 3 different trials with each color, so we can kind of get an average. But at home, you may just have to do extra trials so that they make sure that they kind of have a good average for that. It doesn't take very long. It takes about 1 minute to take a data point, and then you just get new water and put another one in. So it's actually a really fun experiment. Students really like to see the dye go out, and then if they can make a claim at the end about which dyes move faster, which ones move slower, or if they all move at the same rate, that's what's important, is how that comes out. What's the claim they have, and then what's the evidence that they gathered to support that claim. So this experiment's actually pretty easy in episode 2, but having them go through the experiment and thinking about their procedure, thinking about the variables that they have to hold controlled and the variables that they're going to change is very important. The next episode, episode 3, I'm actually going to talk about solubility and density, and it's kind of more of I don't want to say lecture format, but more of a vocabulary format. Because right now they don't necessarily have the vocabulary to describe solubility or diffusion or any of these rates. That's okay. I don't want them using the vocabulary. I want them experiencing it with their own words first. Then I'll put the vocabulary to it next time. After we put the vocabulary in episode 3, we're going to go to episode 4, and we're going to do another experiment using the same setup that's a little bit different. We're going to be testing things like different temperatures of water to see if that makes a difference. Or if we have water with sugar already dissolved in it, how does that make a difference? So we're going to be using this setup again, so maybe don't have them eat all the M&Ms, or maybe buy 2 packages of M&Ms, I don't know. But it is something that we're going to come back to later on. So you want them to kind of perfect their methods in this experiment so that in a future investigation they can apply those to a new situation. Again, thank you so much for all of the help that you've put in. I know that your kids are really starting to like science. If you have any questions, please contact your teacher or you can contact me at likescience2020@gmail.com, and I'll see you next time.